Amara's hands were always cracked from hours of scrubbing floors and polishing windows, but her spirit remained unbroken because she had a reason to keep going: her son, Malik. Every morning before dawn, she tied her faded scarf, packed a small lunch of bread and tea, and headed to the towering skyscraper where she worked as a cleaning lady for one of the richest Arab-owned corporations in the city. In the marble hallways of that building, she was invisible, passing quietly behind men in designer suits and women in sharp heels who never noticed her bending over to wipe the floors. Yet at home, in their tiny apartment with peeling paint and second-hand furniture, she was more than a cleaner. She was a warrior mother, fighting every day to give her son a chance at life beyond poverty. Malik, unlike the children in their neighborhood who often gave in to despair, carried something unusual inside him: an unquenchable hunger for knowledge. While other boys played football in the streets, Malik sat by the window with worn-out textbooks, listening to language tapes borrowed from the library, repeating words until his tongue mastered them. His gift was extraordinary. By the time he was 16, he could converse in 9 different languages, a skill no one in his world seemed to appreciate because no one believed a poor boy from his background could possess such talent. His mother's eyes often glistened with pride as she watched him switch from French to Mandarin, from Arabic to Italian, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. One day, Amara told him every night as she rubbed her tired hands, "Your voice will carry you further than my hands ever could." Malik believed her, but deep down he wondered if the world would ever give him a chance. Teachers had doubted him, neighbors mocked him, and even the local grocer teased that no amount of languages would fill an empty stomach. Yet Malik kept studying, carrying inside him a quiet certainty that his mother's sacrifices were not in vain. He didn't know it then, but the very place where his mother scrubbed floors was where fate would soon test him, and where the world that once ignored him would finally hear his voice. One chilly morning, Amara woke up feeling faint, but she refused to miss work, knowing how harshly absences were judged by her supervisors, so she reluctantly allowed Malik to accompany her to the office and sit quietly in the lobby while she cleaned. The skyscraper buzzed with unusual activity that day, for Sheikh Omar Al-Karim, the Arab millionaire who owned the corporation, was visiting in person to inspect operations. He was a man of commanding presence, tall, impeccably dressed, and followed everywhere by a line of executives eager to impress him. When his sharp eyes fell upon Malik sitting near his mother's cleaning cart, he frowned, confused at the sight of a boy in such humble clothes in his pristine lobby. "Is this your son?" Omar asked in a booming voice, making Amara freeze, unsure whether she had broken some unspoken rule. "Yes, sir," she whispered, bowing her head nervously. Omar chuckled and shook his head. "And what will he become? Another cleaner?" His words dripped with mockery, and the executives laughed softly behind him, eager to echo their boss's amusement. Malik, who had been raised to respect but not fear, looked up with calm, unwavering eyes and answered firmly, "Actually, sir, I speak 9 languages." The room fell silent for a moment, then Omar's laughter exploded like thunder, echoing across the polished marble walls. "9 languages? Do you think you are smarter than the managers who run my company?" The men behind him chuckled again, but Malik did not flinch. "You can test me," he said with quiet confidence that made the executives exchange surprised glances. Omar tilted his head, intrigued by the boy's audacity, his mocking smile slowly turning into one of curiosity. "Very well," he replied, leaning forward slightly. "If you are not bluffing, prove it." Amara's heart pounded in her chest as she stood frozen with her mop in hand, fearing her son would be humiliated before such powerful men, but Malik's steady voice carried no trace of doubt. The millionaire, now amused but also oddly challenged, prepared to test the boy, unaware that what began as a moment of mockery was about to leave the entire room speechless. Sheikh Omar, still slightly skeptical but intrigued by Malik's bold claim, decided to put the boy to the ultimate test, calling upon him to prove that he could indeed speak 9 languages, a challenge no child in his experience had ever faced. First, Omar spoke in Arabic, issuing complex sentences filled with business terms, idioms, and formal expressions meant to trip up anyone untrained. To everyone's shock, Malik responded flawlessly, his accent crisp and his grammar impeccable, leaving Omar momentarily speechless and the executive staring wide-eyed at the boy. Sensing an opportunity to maintain his composure and test the limits of the claim, Omar then switched to French, deliberately using colloquial expressions and rapid speech, expecting the boy to falter. Yet Malik replied without hesitation, his words flowing naturally, nuanced and perfectly timed, demonstrating not only fluency but a deep understanding of the culture embedded in the language. One by one, Omar moved through Spanish, Mandarin, Russian, German, Italian, Swahili, and Japanese, each language more challenging than the last, yet Malik met them all with ease, his voice steady and confident, his eyes calm, as if he had been born speaking these tongues. The executives, who had initially chuckled at the boy's claim, now watched in stunned silence, murmuring among themselves, realizing that they were witnessing something extraordinary. Amara, standing in the corner with her cleaning rag still in hand, felt tears prick her eyes as pride and disbelief warred within her. This was her son, the boy who had spent countless nights memorizing vocabulary and practicing pronunciation under the dim light of their tiny apartment, the boy everyone had overlooked because of his skin, his clothes, and his humble background. Finally, Omar paused, leaning forward in his chair, his earlier arrogance replaced by genuine astonishment. "Where did you learn all of this?" he demanded, his voice now tinged with respect rather than mockery. Malik's answer was simple, yet powerful: "From books, from people, from listening, and from my mother, who taught me to never waste what God gave me." The room erupted in whispers, and the once laughing millionaire now realized he had underestimated the son of a cleaning lady, a young man whose intellect and talent had shattered every assumption about wealth, status, and ability, leaving everyone in the room humbled and amazed. The day Malik amazed Sheikh Omar with his mastery of 9 languages marked the beginning of a transformation neither he nor his mother could have imagined. Omar, humbled and impressed, immediately recognized that the boy's talents were too extraordinary to waste and offered him an opportunity that would change the trajectory of his life forever, inviting him to join the company as a junior interpreter for international clients and promising to support his education abroad. Malik, who had grown up in a world where his abilities were dismissed because of the color of his skin and his humble background, felt a rush of disbelief and joy, while Amara, still holding her cleaning rag, stood frozen for a moment, tears welling in her eyes as she realized that all her sacrifices, the long nights, the worn-out shoes, the missed meals, had brought him to this moment. In the months that followed, Malik's life transformed rapidly. He began attending language and diplomacy courses, meeting executives and clients from around the world, and using his linguistic abilities to bridge cultural gaps, translate negotiations, and facilitate deals that had previously been impossible due to communication barriers. What was once a source of ridicule had become his greatest strength, and Sheikh Omar, who had once laughed at the idea of a cleaning lady's son speaking 9 languages, now introduced him proudly at board meetings as an indispensable asset to the company. Malik's success did not change his humility or his gratitude. He continued to honor his mother, often crediting her in interviews and public speeches for instilling in him the discipline, curiosity, and resilience that made his achievements possible. Amara, for her part, embraced a life she had only dreamed of. No longer invisible, she walked through the offices once scrubbed by her own hands with dignity and pride, seeing her son's brilliance recognized and celebrated by people who had once dismissed them both. Years later, at a gala celebrating the company's international expansion, Sheikh Omar raised a glass and spoke to the audience, acknowledging that true talent can come from anywhere, and that he had learned the most valuable lesson of his life not from wealth or power, but from a young boy who refused to let circumstance define him. Malik stood beside his mother, now a young man with the world at his feet, whispering to her with a smile, "Mama, we made it." And in that moment, the son of a cleaning lady, once underestimated and overlooked, had become a symbol of hope, talent, and perseverance, proving that greatness cannot be measured by wealth, status, or appearances, but by the courage to believe in oneself and the dedication to turn dreams into reality.